Hey listeners, thanks for joining Set Schedules Meet the Agent podcast. I'm your host, Alan Perez. In this series, I'll be connecting with real estate professionals across the nation to learn about the developments, challenges, and triumphs of their business. We'll also gain insight into different strategies and tips right from the agents who do it best. Thanks for listening in, and email us directly at media@setschedule.com with your feedback. The email address again is media@setschedule.com with your feedback. We hope that you enjoy the episode. Today we're joined by Beth Sands. Beth is a real estate agent out of Orange County, California. She services here our local markets. Thank you for joining us today, Beth.
Me.
I'm very excited that you were able to join us today because the topic that we're discussing, and it seems like everybody is discussing currently, is change, adaptation, and so you immediately came to mind. The last time that we spoke, you gave me a little bit of insight into how you had transitioned markets. Could you give me a little bit more background on that? Where was it that you had started out doing real estate originally?
I actually sold real estate in Colorado in a ski resort town since 2000. And so working that market is a whole nother animal because it's all second home markets mainly. Ranch lands, occasional commercial. So I lived there for 16 years and definitely got into a lot of different avenues when it comes to the real estate market up there. After my kids graduated high school, I moved over to Denver, and because I was done with the snow, 16 years digging yourself out of your car out of the driveway got really old really fast. And so I know, and I moved to Denver, started again, was doing residential mainly in Denver, but same thing, snow, I got really over it. And then finally I made a decision to move back to California because that's where I grew up, and started again 4 years ago in Orange County. And it's probably the best decision I've ever made in my life, other than having my kids, I guess. I have to give
that. Well, I mean, I actually really like that because I'm surprised hearing that, you transplanted, you completely picked up in a book of business, client-oriented market or, industry. How were you able to do that so easily? Or was it easy, actually?
No, it wasn't easy. I worked full-time when I first moved here, just to kind of sustain. And then what I would do on my days off is I would do open houses because I didn't know anyone. I had no sphere at all. And so I started building on my days off from working. I would do open houses, door knocking, mailers, talking to people, just get out there. I didn't really join any networking things just because my schedule was so in flux all the time. So I found that the open houses were the best way for me to get started. And actually I get my first listing through an open house here in Costa Mesa. So it worked out really well for me. And that kind of gave me a little confidence. And then I started meeting people and getting my sphere built up. So I worked full time in those first 4 years of the 3 years. And then I went, it's been a year now since I went full-time real estate. So, but
congratulations,
again,
by the way.
Thank you. And it's starting to pay off. It took almost 8 months from when I actually decided to go full-time to where I'm like, okay, the wheels are starting to turn. I'm starting to get some motivation or momentum going. But the other side of it is, then COVID hit. So then there was another adaptable situation that I had to roll with. And I've been very lucky in that a lot of the open houses, and I still kept that MO, open houses 3 or 4 times a week, door knocking. And that's how I built my business, is totally over the open houses. And I've had, and then a lot of the people from the place I used to work, I built relationships with them, and now I'm starting to build, getting more business from them as well, because I still stay in touch. You never burn a bridge.
That's something that we had talked about, I believe earlier. The way that you maintain your relationships with clients, because something that I'm very familiar with, I mean, in my personal life and in my professional life, follow up is everything. if you end up forgetting to follow up with your friends or your family members or whoever it is, chances are that when you pop back in, that you're not going to get as welcome of a response. Even though, well, I mean, would you say that you have trouble following up pre-transaction with any clients, or do you think that you've got that down pat?
No, I have it. I've always been a true believer of a database model. I put everything in my database. And I had changed different databases to see what works best for me. But the company I'm with now, I find it works really well because it keeps me on a regular like newsletter, email blasts, and that kind of thing. So at least I'm doing some kind of touch. But the other side of it is I make notes, I set up reminders. I'm kind of a geek that way where I like the tech side of things and I like having my app. And as long as I know it's in there, I don't have to worry about it until it comes up again. So it really helps me not worry that I'm missing someone. And I'm really good at writing notes about the people and, anything updates, that type of thing. So it's for me, I really rely on the technology of today to make that happen.
Amazing. And I mean, that's what I would say. That's why you stuck out to me to be an agent to feature, because you roll with the punches so well. But something else that we'd also talked about, your demeanor is very friendly, very personable, right? Has that ever gotten in the way? Have you ever been seen as too nice in a real estate setting?
Oh yeah, all the time. But I know when to, as you get older, you tend to learn how to respond in an appropriate way to hold your ground. Mm-hmm. And I've always been brought up to be nice, and I don't see the point of being aggressive, of forcing a deal. If somebody doesn't want to work with me, I don't want to work with them either. Mm-hmm. And I take the opinion that it really comes down to me if I want to work with the person too. Obviously, I want to do every deal, but if it looks like it's not going to work, then I'm not going to force it. There's enough people out there that go, that I can have good relationships with and build long-term relationships with, even after closings. That I try not to sweat the small stuff and people that I don't want to work with, or they don't want to work with me. I don't take it personally. Mm-hmm. I just tend to keep moving. And you learned a long time ago, I learned next, okay, deal with it, get over it, next, just kind of keep moving. Momentum is really the only way you can be successful.
Yeah.
With that.
I mean, I completely agree with you. One question that I do have though, right? Because it's incredibly important to remove or basically stop servicing or trying to service people that don't want your business, or rather don't want your services.
Right.
How do you find that line? Because there are many shoppers currently that they're on the fence, or they just want to get to know you a little bit better. How do you find the line? How do you know this person is too difficult to work with versus they're just getting to know me?
Really, I ask her questions. What's your timeline? Are you serious about looking? Do you want to get pre-qualified? If somebody doesn't want to get pre-qualified, that's a red flag to me. Mm-hmm. That means they're not serious. It might mean they're not ready right now, and then I ask, okay, what is your timeline? Are you thinking maybe next year? Okay, great. Then how about I keep you in the loop with what's going on with the market? So ask a lot of questions is the key thing for me. Also you have to, you kind of have to see through it. And I want to be PC here, but you can always see someone that is serious or not, because the other trick that I have is if somebody says, yeah, put me on the auto emails through the MLS, I can see if they're looking at the emails. Mm-hmm. But if they don't respond, they don't look at them, there's no activity, then I know they're not serious. So I'll reach out to them again. Have you decided not to buy right now? Yeah, no, I'm not going to buy probably it's a bad time to buy. Of course, I try to overcome their objections. But I tend to cut them off pretty quick when I don't see any activity, because there are plenty of people that I'm nurturing, especially through the set schedule program, that I'm nurturing and are responding, are working with me. Timing might not be right, but it doesn't mean it won't be soon. So there are a lot of people that I work with on my database that are active compared to, and so I tend to cut it off pretty quick, I guess, to answer your question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really like the approach because it's not necessarily cutting them off, right? Because you are still sending out materials, you're still giving them every option to engage with you. It's just at this point, okay, the ball's in their court. It doesn't seem like they're super receptive. We'll see what happens from there, and maybe I'll follow up in a couple of weeks or a couple of months.
Yeah, on the other side of it, especially with the COVID situation, I had a really active buyer list before we got shut down. And I've probably got, like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I've got about 10 buyers that are sitting there waiting to see what's happening. And I physically call them and I'll give them updates. But the way I call them is I go, are you okay? Are you safe? How's your life now? Are you stuck at home? Are you going crazy? Because we all are going through that. And so it gives a more personal note, and then they start opening up to you. And that's another way of engagement and knowing that they're still out there.
Yeah. And I mean, something that we've talked about before, I feel like your approach is so almost holistic, right? You look at the person behind the lead, right? You understand the relationship and the establishment is really what's going to move forward. Is that something that you've always known, or is it something that you had to learn?
I've always been in customer service of some kind or another, of some way. And so the customer's always first. You're always brought up that way. And that's what I learned. But I've fine-tuned my skills over the years my base hasn't changed. Just the way I present myself has changed, in a better light. I used to not sell myself. Now I go, I can really help you. If you need me, I'm here for you. I'm confident enough to say that. And I'm not going to let you down. If I miss a question, I'm sorry, you ask it. No question is stupid. I have a lot of first-time home buyers, and so they're a little intimidated by the whole process. But communication again, keeps coming back down to that. But really, it's about caring about them. Customer service. If you don't give good customer service, they'll do the transaction with you, but they might not come back, and they might not refer people. But if you're there for them through the whole process, then that's the bottom line. And, and really that makes my life better, not financially so much, but because I'm building relationships, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. And so, I mean, would you say, because I've heard varying, approaches or varying ideologies on this, would you say that every client becomes a friend, or is that not something that you would want?
I know it's an interesting subject, because for me, I'm still their boss in a way. Okay, I'm there to help them. I'm there to teach them. I'm there to give them good customer service. I really don't socialize with them, but I'm always there. Like somebody texts me and I respond right away, and they know they can count on me. There's a difference between finding a friend and having a group of people that know they can rely on you in the business.
Yeah, so that's the big difference, is that a friend will give you what you want, but here you give the prospects what they need, right?
Exactly, and try to anticipate what they need a little bit.
Something that you brought up that I think that we could discuss a little bit more. You brought up the topic of COVID, the way that it's shaken things up, that it's put a lot of buyers on hold. How else has it affected your business? Has it affected your day-to-day, or are you still doing the same things that you were doing pre-COVID?
No, I actually went through about a month of, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Hmm.
It was just a shock for me because I couldn't do open houses anymore. Now, remember, that's how I built my business here.
Yeah.
And I couldn't door knock anymore. Another way I built my business. And so I had to really sit back and find a way to adapt. Now, I'm also very lucky in that my office, they do daily meetings and they do trainings Monday through Friday.
Hmm.
So I tapped into that. It kind of made me feel like I was at least not going in the office, but I'm still engaging. And then I suddenly realized that, and this is something that my broker has been saying all along, was just keep moving. Let's adapt. Let's figure out a way. And really, that's me anyway. How do I adapt? How can I figure out this issue? Because I do like problem solving. So I did that. Well, joined Set Schedule. That was a huge thing for me because it made me feel like I was doing something, building my database, which I am doing with them, but with you guys. But the other side of it is, if you can't be adaptable in this business, then you're really going to have a hard time
Mhm.
with it. There is no set way to do it. You have to kind of go with the flow, and you have to figure out there are people that don't understand. If I talk like the real estate lingo, basically, people glaze over, their eyes. They're like, I have no idea what you just said. So I have to adapt and go, okay, this means that, and kind of walk them through. And I did the same thing with the COVID. Is I just went straight back and I started calling all the people I knew to check on them. I knew they weren't going to buy right now. Everybody was afraid, but I checked on them and I made them feel like somebody cared, and reached out to them. I also told them, you'll be able to buy more for your money right now because the interest rates are so low, and you'd be crazy not to take it, but people are afraid, and you have to respect that, and so, but with the COVID, it was totally adaptability, you have to, and so now I feel like I'm keeping moving forward with that. I still can't door knock, still can't do open houses, but I can do follow up, and I can get on my computer and I can send mailers, that kind of thing. So.
One thing that I really like that you brought up is your emphasis on alternative outreach. Like you just said, sending out mailers, continuing to follow up, doing door knocking and open houses. I've heard from so many people, no, this concept can't work in Southern California. What would you say is the biggest difference? Why is it that you're able to work it, whereas some other people, some other agents can't?
I think there's a fear factor. It's scary to walk up to somebody's door. It is. It takes it. You have to step out of your comfort level, and for me, and I have to make myself do it. It's not fun. I don't. It's not one of my most favorite things to do. I prefer to do open houses because you're kind of in control, and people walk into you and you can have a dialogue with them. You're not walking up to a stranger's door and saying it. But what I did do, and I think that's a big factor. The other thing is what I don't do is listen to other people. You know what I mean? I just do what I think I can do and what I'm comfortable with. And just, like I said, keep moving. And so they say there's like 5 ways that you can build your business, 5 kind of modules that you need to do, like door knocking and open houses and mailers, that type of thing. So I'm always doing, right now, obviously there's 2 or 3 things I can't do out of the 5, but I still have 3 left. And that's where I double up my efforts.
Fantastic.
So,
And
but
so,
really if somebody, and also the area, I only door knock where I live.
oh, okay.
Because when I'm driving around, I wave at people, and then when I knock on their door, oh, that's that girl, you that girl that waves at me every time you drive by, and so I'm like, yeah, that's me, so it makes it more personal.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, Beth, it sounds like you really are because it's a concept, right? In real estate, is putting yourself out there, selling the neighborhood, finding out what the prospect needs. It sounds like you really build that value so much and so well. Is there a particular type of client that you struggle with? Is there anything anywhere where you just can't get your foot in the door?
Getting my foot in the door, I don't know if I I don't look at it from that point of view. I just kind of keep doing what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and and try to keep building it in in the areas that I know I'm best at, and then that's where I get the deals coming through. So I don't know.
Sure. No, I mean, if it's a weird question, that's perfectly fine. We'd probably cut that one out.
Oh,
But one thing that I really like that you mentioned is picking up the slack, right? Or supplementing when one thing goes down. Um, it's actually something, interestingly enough, that we see people do with their business. So as a real estate agent, what are some tools that you use to supplement things that you might not feel are your strengths, right? Where you might have some room for improvement or some room for growth.
oh, there's always room for improvement. I'm constantly having to do another class. The ongoing education. Um, Learning scripts. I learn scripts all the time. I write them down, and that way how to respond. With any objection. And it has to feel natural. It can't be that type of thing where uh, you're like, I don't know what to say. You have to. It has to be natural, and so I'm constantly doing scripts. I'm doing classes. Like I said, our office does trainings every day of the week, and I'm always picking up stuff. I have a notepad next to me that I'm always like writing down a phrase, or I could say that. That's something I can say that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. It's all about being, and I'm all about personal growth. You have to have that balance in your life where if you're not happy and you have issues that you have to take care of, or you have to have your own personal growth, you have to take care of that too.
Mhm.
You have to have that balance. I'm not a workaholic, but I work hard,
Mhm.
but I do tend to say, okay, that's it. I'm going to shut down for 2 days,
Mhm.
and I need a break. So I pay attention to what I need as well as what my clients need.
It something that I've seen usually when trying to build projects or I have a big deadline that I want to take a break, like you just said, potentially go offline for 2 days. Is that completely disconnecting, and when you come back from those 2 days, that things are worse off, or do you have plans in place that are basically making it so that it's not a big issue for you to take time off?
Yeah, and keep in mind, I still respond to my texts and stuff like that. But I don't like beat myself up if I don't get on the computer that day,
Mhm.
and do my follow-ups. But I tend to, I forgot your question.
uh, so here, just finding the balancing point, right?
Oh,
Because you mentioned
yeah.
taking time off, but sometimes when we have that inclination, we disconnect too much, and when that happens, then it's
I
a, it's
don't
a
have
headache.
that fear. I don't have that fear because even when I'm disconnecting, I'm figuring out a different way to, when I come back and work and I'm
Mhm.
refreshed, and I see things. Stepping back helps you see things in a different perspective. And it's really important. You're like, okay, that's not working as well as you thought it was. Okay, what can I do different? Or what am I saying wrong? I'm always, running that through my head.
Mhm.
So when I can, yeah, I don't lose momentum with time off at all. And so,
Yeah, I mean, it's because like we were just discussing, it sounds like
yeah,
you really have turned your passion, right, which is cultivating relationships, getting to know people, and you've turned it into your profession, right?
yes,
Making real estate, or
absolutely.
making people's dreams come true to an extent, right? Helping them find the right home and giving them that safety net. Um, Outside of real estate, I mean, what else is it that you pay attention to? Where is your time well spent outside of real estate?
You asked me that last week, and I was like, I don't know. I don't have a life outside real estate. But no, my kids, one lives in Colorado and the other one's in Virginia. So I spend a lot of time trying to stay in touch and on with them. I have family in New Zealand. I'm always, and a sister in Colorado. So I'm always like staying in touch with everyone because we are all so spread out. I like going to the beach and just hanging, and just relaxing. It's a week ago, I went up and just hung out with a girlfriend up in Vegas, for 2 days. We didn't even go to the Strip. We just hung out. So I love to travel. And so part of me, that's my go-to, right now, of course, nobody is. So I'm planning different trips, but that would be what keeps me going. I'm like, okay, this closing, I set a little side, so I can plan this trip. And so that's kind of my big thing is get out there and travel.
Before we do wrap up, seeing as we are close to the end of our time together, Beth, do you have any last quick tidbits, tips, or wisdom for any other agents that may be watching currently?
The only thing I would say is to just get better at your craft and practice scripts, practice ahead of time, say it out loud, write it down. Everybody that gets into real estate, I think, care about people, even though there are some transactional realtors, but technically everybody does pretty much care about people. So just get better at your skill and never think that you're there. Always challenge yourself would be my words. That's what I do for myself anyway.
Great, yeah. And actually, we can end the note or end on that note is, do you have any last messages or anything that you would want to tell, direct towards specifically potential clients that are watching right now? Any last notes or any words on, why you are the best realtor that they should work with?
I could give an anecdote about a client. Would that work? Okay. Yeah. One thing I do is I never not pick up my phone. And have found it kind of interesting moving out here. How many realtors don't pick up their phone and they don't answer. They say if their message says, text me, it's quicker to get my response. That's to me not good customer service. So from the other question, pick up your phone. So I have a client that he's bought one property from me and we're looking for another one. He's an investor. I found him through an open house again, and we've become friends, business friends. And so he sent me an email after we closed on his last property, and he said to me that the subject line was, you've really upset me. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And I opened it up and you've ruined me for other realtors because you're the only one that's actually ever picked up their phone when I've called. And I'm like, yes, I did it. So even, of course, I'm not going to pick up at 11 o'clock at night. There's parameters there, but I will, if I can't get to the phone right away, I'll call right back, so that would be what I would do for my clients. Anybody that needs me, I'm there 100%. I'm not there kind of juggling and maybe I'll get back to you. I'm going to be there for you. And that's as a seller. And I've also taught first-time home buyers classes in Colorado. I was certified there. And so I know how to walk them through a process and on many levels.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Beth, for everything, for giving us insight into your business, for giving the tips and tricks and the secrets behind your business and how you do so well. Thanks again. Like I was saying, it's been an absolute pleasure. And here for our listeners, I do want to sign off also. Thank you again for joining us for this episode of Meet the Agent. As always, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them in a quick email to media@setschedule.com. You can also connect with us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe for more of this exact kind of content by going to youtube.com/setschedule. Other than that, this is Alan Perez signing off, and we'll see you next time. Until then, happy selling.